So this is my 60-gallon aquarium, and I had it running for the last 3 years. But over the last 6 months, I've learned so much about aquascaping and aquariums that instead of fixing every little issue it had, I wanted to just completely start over and document the process. So let's go ahead and get started. And here's a closer look at the aquarium. As you can see, it's not brand new. It's been around for a couple years. It's a little bit scratched up, but I really like that it's 60 gallons, but it doesn't take up an entire wall. So it fits perfectly in my living room. All right, so step one is the base layer of substrate, and I'm gonna go with Fluval stratum just because I've used it forever and it's pretty good. So here goes. All right, so this is the substrate I had in this aquarium previously, and it's mostly depleted, but what I really need it for is to fill up space towards the back of the aquarium. So the goal is to have a couple of inches of depth in the substrate at the front of the tank, and then working towards the back of the tank, it'll have a really big hill. So here's the second and third bag of this substrate, and I'll quickly just even it out just to start getting an idea of the hardscape. And here's some of the rocks and wood that I'll be using for that. So what I want to make here is a stage in a way. So it's gonna let me build another level to this tank and contain a lot of substrate in the back. So something I kind of want to try out here is adding a better platform to add more substrate and just kind of keep things a little bit more compact and keep the substrate locked in that I'm now adding here. This is a fourth bag, and may or may not be super helpful. I think what really will make the difference will be the plants, but here we're gonna give it a shot. And so here is the final aspect of the hardscape, is this nice piece of wood. And now I'm going to get started with the planting, and I'm going to add a little bit of water to the substrate just to get it wet. And I'm going to start out with this Gallon Cinerarium, which is kind of like a hair grass for the foreground or carpeting side of the aquascape. And I bought quite a bit of this, so it'll look good. Next is Eleucoris acicularis, which is pretty much just hair grass. But I wanted a nice carpet of this, so I got quite a bit of it as well. And I'm just gonna put it in front of the rocks going towards the front of the tank. Now at the very front is Monte Carlo carpeting plants. So I will plant this right at the front, and hopefully it spreads out in a nice carpet. All right, so I'm gonna add a little bit more water so that I can start adding my taller plants. And I'm going to start out with this sword plant, and this one is going to go on the far right corner of the tank, and I'm going to use an exact same sword plant to go on the left side of the tank, and this is going to give it a very symmetrical look. Next, I'm going to use these Vallisnera rubras in the very back of the tank, so hopefully these will provide a nice background full of green once they are nice and fully grown. But for now, they are just gonna cover as much ground back here as possible. All right, so I'm gonna add a little bit more water now and go in with the next round of plants. So first off is this Rotala colorata, and this should give the tank a nice red color. And I'll keep this one off to the right of the tank. So these are stem plants, so they should grow fairly well and easy. Every now and then just give them a trim. And the next set of plants is this Alternathera ficodea rainbow. It's first time having this plant, but I think whenever it gets fully colorful, it has some pinks and reds along with some green, so it should look really good. All right, and then I think this is the final round of water. And I'm going to use this canister filter, Aqueon canister filter. So should be good. I've used it in the past and it's pretty good. It's not super loud, or I guess it's not the biggest, but it does a good job. It has really good flow. Here's the connections leading into the tank and the outflow. So just had to fill it up all the way and give it some power. All right, so here's that piece of wood from the Hardscape earlier, and I really think this looks a lot like a tree. So one thing I wanted to add is some kind of moss, and I chose Physidens moss to place kind of like on the trunk of the wood. So I'm just super gluing it down, and this should grow out and look a little bit wider. But yeah, I'm just adding a little bit. Hopefully it'll grow out in time. And then maybe in a later video, I'll add another type of moss on here, maybe some Christmas moss on the branches. And that'll complete the look. And this tree should be super green. So it goes back in the tank, and at first it floats, but after a while it'll sink down. All right, for the final round of plants, I'm adding some Anubias, which may be in a spot where it gets too much light. I might move them around, but we'll see. And then I have some sword plants as well that originally came from my first two sword plants, so I'll be adding those closer together. Next, I have this mystery plant that I've had for like 5 years, and then some Bacopa moneyworts, and these have gotten pretty tall. I might have to add them in the background. I'm using this Fluval 3.0 light, and it's been really good for the colorful plants. Aside from that, I guess I haven't really needed it a whole lot, but it helps to grow plants really well for sure. And for the background plants, I'm going with some green Rotalas that I grow in most of my other aquariums. So they were just long enough to add back here, and they do a really good job. And at this point, it's been 2 weeks since the start of the tank, and the sword plants were struggling, but I decided it was time to add a few fish. So I added 2 Corydoras and 1 bamboo shrimp, and I'll check in 2 weeks after this, once it's cycled just a little bit better. All right, so it has been a full month since I first set this up, and a few things have happened. So I think from whenever I moved all the plants in here, I exposed the sword plants to air for just a little too long, and I've had to trim them down as the month has gone. But I think they're gonna be fine now. They're down to the really green leaves, so I think they're in good shape now. Something similar happened to the Vallisneria rubras. Those, I think from the transportation, just didn't have enough water, so they melted back quite a bit, but now they should be on their way back up. My red plants turned green, and I think that's okay. They've been getting quite a lot bigger, so maybe it won't be long before they turn red again. All the other plants have been doing really well, and it's looking good. So I think I'm gonna add my last few fish and call it done. All right, so first I'm gonna add, just for gold Chinese algae eaters, and I'm gonna let those catch up to temperature. And to go with that gold theme, I got a gold mystery snail to also help just clean up duty. All right, so I let these get acclimated for a little while, and then I released them. So first was that mystery snail, and then the Chinese algae eaters. And I'm excited to see how these guys do. I was told they can be a little aggressive, but they've been fine so far. And here goes that snail. And the main character fish here are these 3 rainbowfish. So they should be happy to have this amount of space for just 3 of them. And they've been doing really well. So here they go. So this is a baby rainbowfish, and the way it got into this all shrimp aquarium was through a plant. So 3 months ago, I found it swimming around in this all shrimp aquarium, and I was really wondering how it got here. But then I remembered that I added some plants into this aquarium, and it must have been how. But he's big enough now that I'll be adding it into the bigger aquarium with all of the other rainbow fish. So since adding all the fish, they seem to be doing really well together, and now I'll just let you enjoy the rest of the video. All right, that's it for this one. It was a ton of work, but it was totally worth it. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And I just want to say thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.